June 1st, 1911. Olympic's trip across the Irish Sea was a short one. She soon parted ways with her two little tenders, Nomadic and Traffic, who continued on directly for Cherbourg, while Olympic herself steamed onward to Liverpool, arriving at the mouth of the Mersey River at 3 a.m. Come morning, she started up her engines and moved further up the Mersey until she anchored just opposite the landing stage at 10 o'clock. Liverpool was no stranger to large liners. In fact, at that moment, Cunard's Mauretania was anchored just up the river. The largest liner in the world, when she entered service in 1907, she was now dethroned by Olympic in terms of size and luxury. White Star Line having long since abandoned going after speed records. Thousands came out to see the new ship, admiring her fine lines and balanced profile. Just like in Belfast, Olympic's crew dressed her in flags, and she was once more thrown open to the public. As she was anchored a few hundred feet away from the landing stage, the visitors had to be transported to the ship using tenders, one of which was White Star's own Magnetic of 1891. And with there being a great public interest in seeing this latest marvel of marine engineering, a second tender, Flying Kestrel, was needed to augment Magnetic, and both tenders were packed full of passengers on each outing. The cost of a ticket was £0.50, the revenue from which was again donated to hospitals and local charities. The route for the public inspection was carefully mapped out, and thankfully for us, the original plans still survive in museum archives, allowing us to recreate what visitors would have seen. After boarding, the Magnetic would sail out to Olympic, pulling up alongside the starboard side where guests would embark directly into the first-class boarding entrance on D-deck. The space was a large one, panelled in English oak, and opening directly onto the lift lobby, allowing passengers easy access to all parts of the ship, most importantly leading to the spacious and airy first-class reception room. Decorated in the Jacobean style, it was panelled in white with a rich red carpet and furnished with dozens of wicker easy chairs and sofas. As the crowd passed over to the port side of the room, they admired the beautiful Aubusson tapestry hanging just opposite the grand staircase and its magnificent bronze candelabra. The tour then moved on to the dining saloon, the largest room of its kind afloat, decorated in a style matching that of the reception room. It could easily dine over 550 people in a single sitting, with her port and starboard sides divided into multiple alcoves that allowed diners more privacy. To light the space, Harland & Wolff incorporated 2 rows of portholes on the hull, cleverly hidden behind leaded glass windows which were tinted in such a way that warm light always shined through. Visitors then walked through the aft doors of the saloon into a space that even passengers wouldn't be allowed in when the ship was finally in service, the large galley and pantry filled with the newest cooking apparatus and stocked full of the finest china and silver cutlery for the saloon. They wouldn't stay for long and soon found themselves in the second-class dining saloon, not as extravagant as its first-class counterpart, but still beautiful in its own right, with oak panelling, hundreds of electric lights and beautifully carved dining chairs. On the deck above was the second-class library, and then, after a brief look at the enclosed promenade, the tour returned to first class. Passing the aft grand staircase and barber shop, guests got their first look at the suites Olympic would be well known for. Each room was different from the last. First, a glimpse into a modern room with its simple white panelling and brass beds. Next was a French suite, fully panelled and furnished in oak. An Adam room came next, followed by Louis XVI, Georgian, Empire and Italian Renaissance, each more beautiful than the last. At the end of the corridor stood one of the parlour suites, comprising 2 bedrooms with a private bathroom and a private sitting room, decorated in the Louis XIV style, complete with an electric fireplace. After climbing the grand staircase up to B-deck, they were treated to a nice stroll down the enclosed promenade. The crowd then passed by the first-class restaurant, which was excluded from the tour as it had only one entrance and exit, though the more curious guests likely took a peek in through the large windows. After that, the tour moved on to the second-class smoking room, panelled in oak and furnished with plenty of green leather armchairs and sofas. Then it was back to first class and more suites before moving up to A-deck. It was here that the majority of the public rooms for first class were located. Like the restaurant, the reading and writing room was excluded due to there being a single entrance and exit. The exquisite beauty of the first-class lounge just down the hall more than made up for this omission, however. With a ceiling height of 12 feet, the space was panelled in delicately carved oak featuring hundreds of unique carvings depicting various flowers and musical instruments. On the forward end stood a large marble electric fireplace, and opposite was an even larger mahogany bookcase containing hundreds of volumes of the classics and many new releases. The room was furnished in finely carved mahogany furniture, upholstered in a rich green velvet, matching the green and gold carpet. Tall windows, topped with delicate stained glass, looked out onto the promenade deck, flooding the space with light. In stark contrast to the lounge came the next stop on the tour, the first-class smoking room, panelled in dark, gorgeous mahogany, inlaid with mother-of-pearl scrollwork. Dozens upon dozens of stained glass windows adorned the walls and the windows, but the centerpiece of the entire room was located at the aft end, where a large white marble coal-burning fireplace stood, topped by a magnificent painting by artist Norman Wilkinson, entitled Approach to the New World, depicting the entrance to New York Harbor. Moving aft, through the revolving door led the guests into one of the two veranda cafes. There was one for smoking and the other for non-smokers, allowing passengers the choice of which atmosphere they preferred. After a stroll along the A-deck promenade, visitors came face to face with the most famous, soon-to-be most iconic space of all, the top of the forward grand staircase, with its elegant curves, rich bronze balustrades crowned with a large white frosted glass dome overhead. At the landing of the staircase stood Honor and Glory, crowning time, a large and elaborate clock panel that stood over 9 feet tall, carved by master woodworker Charles Wilson and adorned with flowers, fruits, and foliage. Adjoining the grand staircase was the gymnasium, quite a new novelty aboard ships, equipped with the latest exercise machinery. After that followed a walk aft along the spacious boat deck, then a trip down the second-class staircase down to E-deck. Olympics builders fitted the centre well of the staircase with an electric lift, the first liner to provide this luxury for second class, but the lift was closed for the tour, and guests would have to make do with the stairs. Once reaching E-deck, the visitors' tour came to an end, and they disembarked onto a tender, waiting to take them back ashore. Later in the afternoon, the price of tickets was lowered and even more guests came aboard. All in all, several hundreds of pounds were raised from ticket sales worth tens of thousands in today's money. Though the visitors were greatly pleased and impressed by the new liner, the local ferryboat captains weren't too happy with her presence on the river. She had anchored very near the ferry lines and was so huge that when she swung around with the tide, she completely blocked smaller liners from view and took up such a large portion of the river that she caused a delay in the ferry services. After a complaint from one of the captains, it was decided to move to a less busy part of the Mersey. Besides the little hiccup with the anchorage point, Olympic's visit and public inspection were a great success. However, the short visit would be quite bittersweet. While Olympic was registered in Liverpool, and the city's name engraved on her stern, it was the city of Southampton that would be her true home. And at 11:45 PM, she weighed anchor and bid farewell to Liverpool.